Daniel Jones pick, the first of 10 draft picks by the Giants this weekend, a grade in which you gave them a C+, which was tied for your lowest. How much of that was tied to the pick of Jones?
You know, it wasn't much tied to that, Greeny, because I think you look at what Dave Gettleman did. He said, hey, I got my quarterback. I located who he is. I know who he is, and I'm going to take him at 6 rather than risk losing him at 17. Daniel Jones, you brought up the record against top 25 teams. Duke was outmanned up front on the offensive line. They didn't have receivers who could get open. They didn't have receivers who could consistently catch the football, and that's all not on all the quarterbacks. You know, when you look around the country, some of these guys have a better opportunity. Daniel Jones didn't, and because of that, that record speaks for itself. Bottom line is he's got talent, and if they'd have taken him at 17, nobody would have had an issue with it. So I just look at some of the other picks that they made and who they took where they did, factored into that C+, B-, which is not a big deal. But Daniel Jones has a chance to be a good quarterback in the NFL, and if he is, all the people are saying the Giants screwed it up and they don't know who Daniel Jones is. There'll be a lot of people who are saying Daniel Jones was a bad pick, and he probably never even saw Daniel Jones throw a pass, except on a couple highlight reels.
That's probably true. Now, there's a guy that all of us have seen throw passes who will be available, we assume, in next year's draft, and that is Alabama's Tua Tagovailoa, who I know is at the top of your 2020 prospect list. If you sort of project ahead to what you would imagine his grade is going to be, let's just say it was right now, where would he have been in this mix?
Well, it's incomplete. He had the 1 year and he struggled late, and I think he needs to really pick it up. And Jeudy, the wide receiver, his favorite target, his go-to guy, could be the guy that brings back memories of A.J. Green and Julio Jones and the great receivers of past years that we haven't really seen of late, Green. So Jeudy is a guy I think to keep an eye on as much as Tua at Alabama. They finally have, and we finally in college football have a receiver that could go in the top 5 and be worthy of going that high.
Mel, extraordinarily well done, as always. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks a million for this and all last few weeks. Wonderful work.
Always a pleasure, Greeny. You're the best, man.
The great Mel Kiper Jr. Let me bring it back out here now to Ryan Clark, and let's talk about this a little bit. Do you believe that tanking for Tua, which is, you know, the phrase, I like it when we get phrases for these guys. Right. Do you think that becomes a theme in the NFL this year?
It doesn't, because you just don't know. You look at Tua Tagovailoa, and you go back to the national championship against Clemson, there was a lot of talk that if all college players could come out at one time, that Trevor Lawrence would be the #1 pick, not Tua Tagovailoa. So why would you tank for a guy who's not even considered the best quarterback prospect in college? And the other thing is, this is not basketball, right, where you can trade away all the good players, all of the veterans, or you could sit LeBron James and sit all these guys and tank. Like, in football, it's too hard to play. The careers are too short to get 22 guys who are starting to tank and not play well. It just doesn't happen. And so for me, when you look at Tua Tagovailoa, there are too many unknowns. It's too hard to impact a football team in a way where a team should tank for him. And now that we see that teams like the Giants, who I thought was tanking by getting rid of Landon Collins, getting rid of Odell Beckham Jr., they go and draft a quarterback like Daniel Jones. Obviously, tanking isn't a thing.
Yeah, to be clear, for those who are not aware, Trevor Lawrence can't come out next year. He has to be 3 years removed, and so we'll make that clear. So if they're tanking for Tua this year, maybe they'll be tanking for Trevor the following year. Let's quickly do the Giants here. Let's look at what they got back for Odell Beckham, because that trade is now complete. The Giants know exactly what they got in return for Odell Beckham in that trade this year. They got the 17th pick and the 95th overall picks in that deal, and they also got Jabril Peppers, who started 29 games in his first 2 seasons in Cleveland. So they bring him in. He'll be a good player. The Giants drafted Clemson defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence with the 17th pick, and they used that 3rd rounder on a defensive end out of Old Dominion named O'Shane Zimenez. So as we sort of sit back and look for that, we always say you can't get full value for a player like Odell. How do you think overall it turned out?
I think you can't judge it right now. You remember when the New York Giants got Odell Beckham at 12, it was a huge reach. Everybody was saying that they shouldn't have drafted him at that point. Sammy Watkins, who went 4th in that draft to the Bills, was so much better than Odell Beckham Jr. He's a generational talent, though. Odell Beckham Jr. has been, for the first 5 years of his career, just somebody who is transcended football. So we can't necessarily say that Lawrence or Zimenez won't be guys that can replace his production or Jabril Peppers. But right now, it doesn't look like they went out and got enough for a guy who changed what the franchise looked like offensively, what they were as far as popularity. And so when you think of Odell Beckham Jr., you have to think outside of football. So for Dave Gettleman, this draft has to hit. These guys have to become great players. They have to become great pass rushers. And if they do, you can at least say Dave Gettleman by addition by subtraction. You got rid of something that you felt hurt your culture and also got good players.
And look, I think Mel would be the first one to tell you that the grades that are given after the draft exclusively deal in value. Where we think the value of these players were, it doesn't necessarily have any translation to how they're going to turn out, because so much of that is about the circumstances and the coaching and the fit and all of that. So it doesn't mean, even if it looks like a C+ now, based upon what the value of the players were, it doesn't mean that they all won't end up being good players for them.
And that's the way you grade the draft, though, Greeny. If you look at Daniel Jones and you feel like he was valued in a certain spot and you drafted him too early, then that's not a good pick. It's not necessarily saying that these guys won't be good NFL players or they aren't NFL talents. It's saying for where you were drafting, did you do a good job of getting the value you deserve there? And I think you've made the point a ton of times about what's happened 3 of the last 5 years with the New York Jets.
Yes.
Right? At their spot, probably the best overall player in the draft fell to them, and they picked that guy away from need.
Right.
And that's what you have to do. And what it's looking like with the New York Giants is that they didn't go about drafting in that way this year.
Yeah, those 3 guys would be Leonard Williams, who they got at 6, Jamal Adams, who they got at 6, and then Quinnen Williams, who they get at 3. Well done, and a point well taken.